Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Alright, so the powers that be obviously want us to be talking about the Trump indictment. Here we go again, Donald Trump to be indicted on criminal charges. Based on his actions in DC on January 6th of 2021, oh, he's definitely going down this time. That's what they want the conversation to surround. That Donald Trump is guilty of inciting violence, of leading, launching, and organizing an insurrection, even though, well, this exists.
I know your pain, I know you're hurt, but you have to go home now. We have to have peace. We have to have law and order. We have to respect our great people in law and order. We don't want anybody hurt.
Or, of course, this before the events themselves.
I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard.
So apparently during a day of protest, telling people to march peacefully is incitement to violence, and then once it got a little rowdy, telling people to go home and to stop engaging in bad behavior is incitement of violence, and merits criminal charges and the arrest of a former president. That's the world that we live in. That right there is what the media is focused on. That right there is what they want you to be paying attention to. And my immediate thought process is, how about no? How about we continue to talk about exactly what you're trying to distract us from, the fact that the real criminal isn't the previous president, but rather the current resident occupying the White House. We got more whistleblowers, now an FBI allegation, once again pointing the finger directly at Piss Pants Joe. We've got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. Alright folks, the most recent bombshell revelation involving the Bidens was definitely the Gal Luft FBI connection accusation with a supposed FBI agent that goes by the name of One Eye. The allegation being that the Bidens were essentially selling access to the Chinese, and a part of that access was their connection to the FBI, informing foreign agents as to whether or not the FBI was looking into them. This, by the way, if proven true, would be highly illegal. Well, building upon that point, now we have this from Just the News, written by John Solomon, one of the most credible people in the news world. FBI tipped off Biden team Secret Service about plan to interview Hunter, agent tells Congress. A recently retired FBI supervisory agent told Congress behind closed doors on Monday that the Bureau tipped off Joe Biden's team in the Secret Service in late 2020 about a plan to interview Hunter Biden in his criminal tax probe, corroborating allegations from two IRS whistleblowers. The FBI agent who worked alongside the IRS whistleblowers on the Hunter Biden case when he was assigned to the Wilmington field office gave his account in a transcribed interview before the House Oversight and Accountability Committee, providing fresh evidence of alleged political interference in the treatment of Joe Biden's son. He corroborated several aspects of the account IRS whistleblower Gary Shapley and a second agent gave Congress last month, including that law enforcement's plan to conduct a surprise interview in early December 2020 with Hunter Biden about alleged tax crimes was foiled by the tip-off. John Solomon had a conversation with Kash Patel where he gives us an update on what's to follow.
Well, before Devin Archer testifies next week, if that stays on course, this week on Wednesday, the IRS whistleblowers are going to testify in public for the first time before James Comer's committee. The House Ways and Means Committee Chairman Smith is going to attend that meeting, so it's kind of a joint investigation. Americans are going to see both men. They're going to get to learn the second agent's identity. His name has been withheld from the public at this point. They're going to get to see them testify. In advance of that, and I have confirmed from multiple sources that an FBI agent who worked with the IRS team has come forward and is now cooperating with Congress and can corroborate large parts of the IRS agents' stories about what went on with U.S. Attorney Weiss. That's a major breakthrough. Now you got two different agencies, two different types of whistleblowers coming forward, providing a singular portrait of what went on in the Justice Department. Big explosive revelations ahead, I think, in the next 48 hours or so.
So the identities of both IRS whistleblowers will be made public, and they will publicly testify in front of the Oversight Committee on Wednesday. Not to mention, I believe that follows Devin Archer's hearing, or possibly that's coming after. And now on top of it, there's an FBI agent coming forward corroborating the testimony from those two IRS whistleblowers. It continues to pile up. You know, the question that I'm asking myself is, what exactly do these people gain coming forward with this information? disinformation. It seems like they have everything to lose and nothing to gain. You have an FBI agent and 2 IRS whistleblowers who have essentially made themselves the enemy of the deep state, the enemy of the DOJ and FBI. They've lost their careers. In some ways, they're in hiding. They're going against one of the most powerful entities in world history, the United States federal government in its current form. And you mean to tell me that they're doing it all because they just don't like Democrats and they want to sabotage Joe Biden and the DOJ ahead of the next election? Give me a break. If you ask me, these men are doing God's work. Clearly, there's a call to duty here, and what they're saying, what they're alleging, isn't exactly that far-fetched. It's not that far off considering the mountain of evidence that we've compiled against the Biden crime family. All the pieces of the puzzle were connecting all of the dots. All these Biden regime actors have clearly played a role not only in the Biden crimes, allegedly characters like Jake Sullivan and Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, as well as many more, or on the cover-up end, as is being currently alleged by multiple whistleblowers that Merrick Garland stepped in at every point in turn to protect the Bidens, just like Anthony Blinken did in the 2020 election. And clearly there's FBI agents who were doing the exact same thing in the midst of the 2020 news cycle to protect Joe Biden from the Hunter Biden element. I mean, I don't know. For me, it's a common sense conclusion that I'm reaching. And speaking of reaching, I don't think I'm reaching too far. It seems like there's a whole lot of credible people pointing the finger at Joe. There's bank transactions, whistleblower testimony, phone calls, emails, internal FBI documents. I mean, the list goes on and on. We continue to pile more and more. I mean, at this point, what are you to believe? The compiling evidence that seems more than circumstantial, or the constant cover-up and lies from the Biden family and his circle? You know, this video puts it into perspective.
Vice President Biden, there have been questions about the work your son has done in China and for a Ukrainian energy company when you were vice president. In retrospect, was anything about those relationships inappropriate or unethical?
Nothing was unethical.
President Biden's brother and son are both under investigation. Officials are looking into their business dealings overseas.
Hunter Biden's business associate sent over $1 million to 3 of your family members. Any reaction to that report?
That's not true.
My son has not made money in terms of this thing about, what are you talking about, China.
CBS News has learned that more than 150 transactions involving either Hunter or James Biden's global business affairs were flagged as concerning by U.S. banks for further review. Some of those concerns included large wire transfers.
The most comprehensive statement we have is from the White House chief of staff, and that was earlier this week. And he said that the president is confident his family did the right thing, adding these actions by Hunter and James are private matters and don't involve the president.
Gary Shapley has been at the IRS for 14 years and told us that the way the Hunter Biden investigation was conducted was, in his words, quote, outside the norm.
I have never discussed with my son or my brother or anyone else anything having to do with their businesses, period.
President Biden, how involved were you in your son's Chinese shakedown text message? Were you sitting there? Were you involved?
No, I wasn't, and I don't.
Were you?
No.
Has Joe Biden had a single honest moment in this entire ordeal? If he had nothing to hide, then why is he constantly lying? From 2020 claiming that the Hunter Biden laptop story was Russian disinformation, to his multiple statements on the record that he had no knowledge of his son's business dealings, even though he had direct knowledge and involvement. It's been a mountain of lies, a summit of dishonesty. I'm more inclined to believe all the credible evidence, all the testimony, than I am to buy into Joe Biden's pathetic defense. He is compromised. His orbit in his cabinet, his orbit at the FBI and DOJ are compromised. The Bidens were clearly selling access to the FBI. They clearly had access to the FBI because they were getting tipped off ahead of investigations. They got tipped off on the Hunter Biden laptop scandal before it dropped during the election and were able to formulate a totally dishonest plan, getting all their CIA bros together to write a letter discrediting the laptop as Russian disinformation based on literally nothing. I mean, we have the email showing Anthony Blinken asking John Brennan to sign on to the letter to quote, or rather paraphrase, help Joe Biden push back against the Trump campaign on this issue. Conclusion, Joe Biden and his goons are a bunch of criminals. And so no, excuse me if I refuse to buy into the multiple phony Trump indictments. One indictment over a bogus federal campaign violation from a rogue Manhattan DA, not even the FEC. The FEC dropped the case. Another indictment charging the President of the United States for possessing his own documents, which the Presidential Records Act says he has the sole authority to possess said documents. Or, of course, on the January 6th probe, as if the commission and the probe itself wasn't big enough train wreck, charging Donald Trump with organizing an insurrection when he clearly, multiple times, is on record telling people to go home and be peaceful, never called for violence. Excuse me if I don't take those indictments seriously, and I'd rather focus on the actual criminal currently residing in the Oval Office. Just a thought of the day. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, folks, and I'll see you on the next one.